What is up, Jabroni? JJ back here from Run Pure Sports, talking a little MLB. Saturday, April 29th. Wow, we're almost already done with April. What a time to be alive. Also, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but this show is usually ran on Saturdays on the Bets channel, the Run Pure Bets channel. This week, we'll call it a misclick. Maybe it was on accident, on purpose. Who knows? But regardless, we're here on the on the DFS channel, and I'll talk through these games more of a betting perspective, though, which maybe will help you build your lineups, especially if you're using this for some of the mid slates or the mid afternoon slate that starts in 30 minutes or so, and then one of the main late slates, which I think only has 5 games in it, but for DFS anyway. But I'll talk through these games, each of them from the 4:00 spot start on. And what is it? About 10 games-ish, maybe 11. 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. Looks like 11 games. Yikes. But yeah, no, should be fine. I'll talk through each of these. Obviously, happy to answer any questions anybody has, especially if it's DFS tied. Happy to help in that regard. And then yes, tomorrow it'll be earlier, right? The Joey Holden Gary show and then the NASCAR show. So pick up like usual. Just today I had a little bit of running around. So that's why we're doing the show a little later. But needless to say, we're here. What's up, Mike? Hope all is well. Trying to stay in good spirits today. I'm rocking the DraftKings holiday sweatshirt. Figure I change up the mojo every once in a while. Yankees hat for the fake fan in me. No swing for the fences. No swing for the fences show today. Not really. I wouldn't call this a swing for the fences show. But I'll be honest, I don't think we have a swing for the fences show on Saturdays normally anyway. Maybe Andrew's just getting his days mixed up. Maybe he thinks it's Sunday and maybe he's going through like a blackout phase, or maybe Andrew's so fucked up that he is drunk and he thinks today's Sunday, which, look, God bless you. But I don't actually think we have a swing for the fences show on Saturdays. But this betting show, as I was saying, I usually do it on the Bets channel, but this week I called a misclick, did it on the DFS channel. So blessing or a curse, I guess whatever your life perspective is. Change historically big sag. Yeah, being alpha is just not what it once was, Mike. Like nowadays you got to be a beta, right? Because people feel bad for betas. Betas are victims. This is really the time to be a beta, like more than any time in American history. So that's like, for me, I'm just a full-blown beta. I'd rather be a victim, but people feel bad for me. LOL. But yes, no, I appreciate the sentiment, Mike, and I hope everybody's doing well. But without further ado, let's dive on in. So Marlins, Cubbies, Caleb Killian for the Cubs. And look, I get it, right? It's like, how often do you feel good about laying minus 130 with the Marlins? Edward Cabrera is also a bit of a gas can, not nearly as much as Killian is. For those that think like, oh, maybe Killian's not that bad, right? I mean, he's been in AAA. I mean, he spent a little time in the majors last year, but it wasn't much, and he got absolutely rocked. And then so this year, he's got a few innings under his belt in AAA, and it's been a disaster. Absolute nightmare. He strikes out nobody, walking way too many, giving up a lot of home runs, a lot of hard contact in general. And he's actually like not even leaving too many. Like his ERA is what? His ERA was 7 in AAA. It should have been higher, and now he faces a real team in Major League Baseball. Now, what he has in his favor, right? He has in his favor this ballpark, right? It's arguably the most friendliest pitcher ballpark in all baseball. But it's like I tell you guys all the time, right? Like in terms of totals, like 9. I don't ever bet over 9 at this park. I don't care who's pitching. Like I don't care if I'm pitching. I wouldn't bet over 9 at this park. It's just the park is very forgiving. This is basically as high of a number you'll see at this park. Now, granted, obviously with the shift out of the game, and it is still warm in the park, right? So maybe this year with the right pitching matchup, you might see a 9.5, 10 at this park, maybe. But I do remember a 9 floating at this park last year, and I remember I definitely bet the game under. And I'm pretty sure it went under. But as for this spot, I don't know. There's going to be a lot of foot traffic in this game. And I don't, I'm not in the mood to try to figure. I'm also not a fan of either of these bullpens. So yeah, this is a spot where normally I'd love to bet this under, but even I'm a little scared of these two pitchers. But I can't express this enough. For that park, Nine is a massive number. So the fact that you have two bad arms going at it, to me, it's all correlated, right? So to me, the line's, I guess, relatively fair. Maybe the line's a little high, just because the tough part I'm having is I know for a fact nines popped at this park last year with bad pitching matchups, and now you take away the shift. Stolen bases are like handouts now. Um, so yeah, too too much going in different directions for me on this game, but call it a very slight lean on the under nine just based on park dimensions. But yeah, with these two arms going at it, you're just going to get a lot of foot traffic. And I know you don't have a lot of like crushed, killer bats in these lineups, but still, it's the same thing. Like these are bad arms, and it's just going to be tilting if you're hoping that consistently, both teams just perform poorly with runners and scores and scoring position in that game. So we'll pass. We'll move over to Oakland and Cincy. So Oakland at home. I mean, you're already, whatever it is, 30 sub 30 games into the season, a little less, right? And Oakland at home is big, pretty big dog against Cincinnati, which I don't want to say is crazy because it's not, but it just shows you how bad Oakland's, just playing and going to be this year. They're just a tough team. They have no hitters, they have no pitching. It's just, I don't even know. You want to talk about tanking? It's rough being an Oakland Athletic these days. But on their end, so they bring out Kyle Muller, who has definitely been bad this year. And look, he was bad with Atlanta as well, in some work last year. But yeah, he's just not very good. He doesn't really strike out much. He walks just a tremendous amount of batters. Uh, and he's given up a bit of a home runs. But here's the thing: like with him, his batting average on balls and plays near 400, so that likely comes down. But he's still just been bad. Like his ERA should be probably 5.5, and instead he's sitting at about an ERA slightly over 7. So even if I thought like, hey, look, this guy's going to progress a little better, it's not like he's going to progress much better. On the other end, Hunter Green, obviously a lot of folks like him. Throw smoke. He's got good stuff. Um, but yeah, it's kind of tough to pull the trigger in this spot, right? Because it's like, do the Reds really deserve to be minus 155, minus 160 on the road against like anybody? But again, the Athletics have been good. I mean, have been good. The Athletics have been bad, so it makes sense, right? But this is another game where, like, for me, you just have things correlated in different directions, which kind of make the game tough to play. I get it. A lot of people are probably going to bet the Reds in this spot, and it makes sense, right? Muller's terrible. People like Hunter Green. Line might seem cheap, but I just don't know how often this year you're going to find the Reds on the road being minus 160. So just from a value perspective, I don't love it, but I can't back Oakland. I mean, if you're backing Oakland thinking there's value, just this team sucks. Like, and I'm not saying there's bad teams throughout the season that will play well, right? You're going to see bad teams go through good streaks, right? Right now, that's not Oakland, right? So I don't want any part of this game from either end. I think that the Reds are getting a lot of respect with this line, but at the same time, Oakland has just been terrible. So I don't. I'll be honest with a game like this, I don't even know what number I would bet Oakland at. Like, let's say Cincinnati was minus 210. Numbers wise, as far as the pendulum swinging, it probably makes sense to jump in on Oakland if you could have gotten like plus 150 with Oakland. Um, but at what point, like at what point are you just kind of saying I think there's value on a team that sucks and that's playing poorly? So yeah, I don't know. I don't know who's even lining up to bet Oakland today, but either way, since he's getting too much respect, can't back Oakland at this small price. So yeah, stay away from me. Red Sox Guardians tilting game from yesterday. I bet the under first 5 in this game. I think it was who was pitching Bieber and Nick Pavetta. Nick Pavetta just sucks. Like God, it's like he has good stuff, but the dude just like never seems to get it right. His ERA I know has been in the mid fours for some time now, but he's just got so much better stuff than what his ERA ends up being every season. He gets hit very hard, and of course, the first 5 goes over, and the full game goes under. So me with my first 5 under didn't matter; it lost. But as for this game, so Zach Plesac, look, Plesac's a can, right? Like he's been a can. He had that one year where he was getting like really lucky, where his ERA was like 3, but his like advanced numbers were like 5. And he just continued to step in shit every start. It hasn't been the case this year. On the other end, though, Brian Bello, um, another semi enigma, because but in a more positive way. Like I know he's been really bad, but like he's not as bad as that 9.82 ERA shows. This is a typical game where you would assume, I guess maybe you would assume an over. But I will tell you this, like, and this is the main reason why I bet the first five under yesterday. So, like, think about what this number is right now, right? Like, as far as value and how you can try to extract it, right? So yesterday, two arms in the hill. So today, obviously, you have Plesac and Bello, right? Yesterday, who were your two arms in the hill? Shane Bieber, Nick Pivetta. Now, you might think what you want about Nick Pivetta in a negative way. He's a better pitcher than Bray and Bello, okay? And Shane Bieber is a much better pitcher than Zach Plesac. Do realize this exact same game closed at 9 total yesterday. Here, you have two much worse pitchers. Total is once again 9. Now, if we take the weather factor, weather's about what it was yesterday. Yesterday, game time temps were 50 with wind blowing left to right a little in. It's literally almost a replica of yesterday, just two worse pitchers now. So why am I not betting the over? I have a weird thing, and I'd be interested in your guys' thoughts on this. I know this is more of a DFS channel, but from a betting perspective, I actually refuse to bet a game in baseball where on a certain day I like an over and it loses, and if the next day I like it the under. I don't like doing that because then I'm losing. I'm losing two bets, um, eh, two contrary bets, or what's the word I'm looking for? Two 180 type bets in two different games. I just hate losing bets that way. I do the same thing with teams. Like if I like a team on a Friday game, and that team loses, I never turn around on Saturday and then bet the other team the second game because to me, there's certain things you have to do when you're betting, right, or gambling, where you kind of know what tilts you or what will tilt you. And I've just learned over time that those type of losses, they tilt me so bad. So I just stopped doing it, and it's actually been fantastic in that regard. And I think it goes without saying, right? Like for folks that gamble in their own way, whether it's betting or DFS or like casino slots online, um, whatever. Look, there's an ass for every chair, right? Whatever itch you need scratched, to each his or her own. However, I think there is a growing maturity piece to this, right? Where you want to make sure that you're not consistently putting yourself in situations that will end negatively more times than not. And I know for a fact that when I used to bet with that type of pattern, where you like a team on a Friday and they lose, turn around on Saturday and you bet the other team and they lose, that type of scenario for me was always like 3 or 4 times more tilting than as good as the win would have felt on a Saturday, right? To get that win back on Saturday in the other direction. So I just stopped doing it, and I stopped doing it with totals because it tilts the hell out of me. And I think that each of us, in our own way, have those types of patterns that tilt us. And I think some people just choose to ignore them, right? Like you just you just kind of like go through your day and you ignore those patterns, and then you get tilted. You don't understand why. Find yourself, right? Take a step back holistically and kind of find what bothers you and what doesn't. And I hate to go down this little rabbit hole, but in relation to this game, to me, this is as much of an over that could exist because just based on numbers, yesterday, two much worse arms pitching in this park. Total was the same number. So, but again, my total lost yesterday, my under, and I will not turn around and bet the over here. But again, the first five could go over and the full game could go under, I guess, in theory. Or I guess it would be first five under and the full game over, I guess could happen as well. But yeah, ultimately, I want to stay away from this game. Over makes a ton of sense, though, but especially early in the game. But again, I will stay away just because I hate losing games in that manner. Next game up, 5 o'clock game, Houston Astros, Phillies, Christian Javier, Zach Wheeler. So Wheeler has been interesting this year. Hasn't looked himself much. I know that I think he had a decent start his last time out. Where he's getting his ERA back slowly a little lower, but he has not looked like himself. Now, Christian Javier is a pitcher that I only like to bet when he's home. I just feel like because he has some awkward splits for home road. I will say, though, this price is giving Houston a decent amount of respect here. Um, I also think that anytime you're in this Houston ballpark with a total of 7.5 or less, is especially against a team that can hit. If Houston's playing Oakland, fine, and they're a big favorite, fine, 7.5. But when you're playing a team that's really got sticks up and down the lineup, like the Phillies, 7.5 is a small number. 7.5 is a very small number. So call it a slight lean over in this game. I don't Hard to love the spot though, considering you have two decent arms, and well, maybe more clear. I know that Javier is just a better pitcher in this ballpark, and Wheeler maybe found something in his most recent starts in general, and maybe he can quiet down this Astros lineup. We know his upside. With his upside, he could. But again, my thing here is Javier is usually really good at home, so it's likely a good spot for him. If you think Wheeler's going to throw well today, yeah, this game likely slides under. But just based on the bats in this game, and I look through the lineups, and lineups are hold on, the lineups are. Thought I saw it before. Yeah, I mean it's basically as good as it's going to get for Philly. And on the Houston end, they still have this like black hole at the bottom. Martin Maldonado. I don't even know how he's still in the league. He used to be an everyday starter because he fielded his position really well and he was a good framer. Um, and he typically caught people stealing, but now he doesn't catch anybody stealing in this new age of stolen base steroids with the new rule with the pitch clock. And he's not even fielding his position well. When he always hits like dog shit. So I just don't even understand how guys like him are still in the league. Like I really don't. But anyway, a bit of a black hole at the bottom of the lineup. They started to move Jose Abreu down a bit. I know that he was hitting, I think, in the 4 or 5 hole, but now he's down the lineup. But yeah, ultimately, Philly's got a ton of sticks. Houston's got sticks at the top. But all things considered, I did opt to stay away just because if this game was in Philly, that's totally different, right? Because Philly's more of a hitter's park. But Javier's a tough pitcher when he's pitching at home to root for him to perform poorly. He could, but he's just so much better there. So stay away from me there. But as far as pitching goes, like to me, Javier's a good live arm today. Love taking him at home. Again, don't like him at all on the road though. Matthew Boyd, Grayson Rodriguez, Tigers, Orioles. Orioles minus 165 ish. I don't know. Matt Boyd's been okay, but that's kind of been Matt Boyd for like the last 2 or 3 years. Weather's not great. This is also a doubleheader. For those that know, I don't like touching game 2 of doubleheaders. You typically are trying to guess what lineups might be or maybe, and obviously at least we have a lineup here. But then there's also the whole bullpen aspect of how it got impacted the first game. I just really never. I feel like there's so much added variance in game 2s. But with that said, I think when you are going to bet game 2s of a doubleheader, you at minimum should have the lineup, and at least you have that. But I will say, you throw a lefty at this righty-heavy Orioles lineup, especially a lefty that struggles with righties. It's a lot to ask. But as I look at this Orioles lineup, it does appear to be watered down, especially towards the bottom. And I wonder if that has to do with guys they maybe started earlier and gave the day off or whatever. But I mean, Cedric Mullins. Yeah, so Cedric Mullins is not even in. Not that it matters. He's obviously a left-handed stick, but I'm just trying to confirm who's actually sitting based on who played the first game. But it would take me a while to figure that out. But either way, Orioles do always seem to show up against left-handed pitching, especially mid left-handed pitching. So good luck, God bless, if you're going to back the Tigers here. Grayson Rodriguez has been okay, more bad than okay, but just not a spot I'm looking to jump on the Orioles here. But again, if you were to, you could jump on their sticks. But I truly believe there's just so much added variance. So much added variance when you're betting game 2 of doubleheaders. I did your Seattle City Connect jersey. What's up, Mark? I hope all is well. All right, so Padres Giants, the Mexico City series, as some people like to call it. They get to play in that thin air in Mexico City. That's why, maybe if you're randomly looking up and down the board and you see a total of 15.5, and you're like, WTF. This park plays extremely small, like extremely small. So, and Joe Musgrove, I know you might look at his ERA and think he's been bad, and he kind of has, but I've always been a Musgrove guy. I like when he's pitching at home, though. He's in a different ballpark here. Sean Manaea is a guy that can definitely strike himself out of trouble, but he's also a guy that gives up a lot of hard contact, and he's facing a team with a lot of live bats. This is just a nightmare situation for Manaea. And granted, he can step in shit like certain people do at times in spot starts. I mean, hell, Bartol Colon, it seemed like stepped in shit half his starts, his final years in the league. But I don't. It's just going to be a tremendous amount of hard contact here in this spot against him, and I don't know. And I'm looking here. It's funny. It's like ticket pricing for this game is pretty wild. So I'm sure it's a fun game to go to, though, especially with the expected amount of home runs and whatnot. But yeah, total of 15.5. By the way, I do expect Coors Field to get totals this high this year. I don't think we got there last year, but I definitely expect this year as the weather warms up, especially with no more shift. I expect Coors Field to show totals like this at certain points of the summer. But here, yeah, I don't know. I wanted to bet this over, but this total opened at 13.5. I mean, how are you going to bet an over? How are you going to bet an over that moved 2 runs after it moved 2 runs? But expect just a tremendous, and the way the field dimensions at this park, they're just like doubles at most parks, going to be triples here. Um, it's just I don't know. You have, and I keep talking on the added variance. You have that with the fact that this being a park that's getting its, I think it's its debut series this season. I think it's only 2 games too, I think, but either way, it's a debut series. I don't know. Padres seem like a really good spot here. I'm not going to lay a run and a half against them though. I mean for them though. But yeah, Mania is just going to be in a load of trouble today, seemingly. But like I said, if you're looking for a reason to back the under, I mean, yeah, you do have 2 pitchers that can strike out a lot of batters, which in a spot like this, yeah, strikeouts could get you out. You get an umpire that's favorable for you in that category, great. But yeah, I mean, we've seen this park before, and the ball just goes crazy in this ballpark. And yeah, I think it was maybe it was last year, 2 years ago, where the game started. I think it was like 1 run in the first 3 or 4 innings, and then just an implosion of runs started. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to bet this under, don't watch the game. I wouldn't watch the game anyway. But fun ballpark, and hopefully they play a lot more games here this year. But as for me, slight lean. Padres first 5, lay the half run at like probably -135, -140. But I don't love that by any means, especially because both teams are gonna score runs today in this park for sure. So just an easy pass for me. Um, Another doubleheader, game 2, Vince Velasquez, Chad Kuhl. I really wanted to back the Nationals here. I hate Vince Velasquez, and I especially hate him on the road. You can back him at home because sometimes he shows promise there. But I don't know. He's coming off a really good start. I would have loved to have had the balls to fade him today. I just wish the price was better. -150. I was expecting this to be a little higher. I just 2 pitchers that I hate. You get a total of 9 in this ballpark. However, weather sucks today. Like this is a very high number considering the lack of carry you're going to get on the baseball in this park today. I think they're just wrapping up their first game, so I doubt you're going to get a lineup before this game. And I've already told you, you're going to bet game 2s of doubleheaders. At least get your lineup straight because you have no idea who's going to sit or not. So in that regard, becomes an easy pass for me. But again, if the lineups are equal like they should be in terms of maybe if one guy sits for the Pirates, hopefully one guy sits for the Nationals in terms of relevance. But trying to predict that's nonsense. But if it was the same when it comes out, just know for me, strong lean, grab that half run with the Nationals first 5, just because to me it's an easy Velasquez fade. All right, next game up, Rangers Yankees. So I did like this game over, and I did bet this over 8.5. Got it -108. FanDuel. Look, the Yankees, I get it, right? Like they haven't been the Yankees, and I don't even think we have a lineup yet. I don't think so, but we kind of know what we're going to get, right? We're going to get live bats, basically 1 through 6, 7, 8, 9 will be a black hole. I don't know. I know Nathan Eovaldi has mowed this team down plenty of times, but I just really haven't liked what I've seen from Eovaldi this year. And I know that Texas bolstered their club again in the offseason, but I didn't consider them getting him bolstering their club much. And I typically don't like to back overs in spots where you have 2 struggling arms because Brito's been nightmare type bad. But I think I fade Brito in his last start and he threw really well. Was it that one? Now I'm trying to think if I actually faded him in his last start. Is that the game from Sunday? I don't think so. No, I'm thinking of the other guy. I'm thinking of the Clark Schmidt, I think. But anyway, so Eovaldi, just waiting for my page to load here because I had his date in front of me. Now it's not. My issue with Brito, we'll talk on Brito first, right? So I don't care as much about the 6.1 ERA because we know ERA is somewhat surface. The guy doesn't eat innings at all. Okay, his WHIP is 1.5, which I mean, imagine giving up a base runner and a half every inning. It's a lot, right? And the biggest problem there is he walks a ton of guys. That's why his pitch counts are always deep, like 3 innings into a game. Believe it or not, where he's been good has been the home run ball. And who knows if that'll kind of go full circle with him. But he has been good protecting the home run ball, but everything else has been so bad. On the other end, Nathan Eovaldi's been the ERA hasn't been great, but he's kind of been okay if you look at his advanced stuff. Um, the big thing with Eovaldi is he doesn't really walk anybody, and he has been giving up like no home runs. Now, obviously, a few home runs, and that's going to balloon a bunch of different things. But he has looked really good. I just really like the spot for this Yankees lineup. Now, the sad part is I don't have their lineup, but again, I would expect them to have their normal set of guys in there today. And they have certainly seen plenty of Nathan Eovaldi. I think it's a spot where if the Yankees can get a few long balls today, I think we're going to be in really good shape. I know it sounds like how do you root for specific home runs, especially against a guy who hasn't been given them. I just know Eovaldi over his career is a 15 to 20% home run to fly ball guy. Okay, this year he's been 3%. Okay, so I just like the fact that those numbers are going to regress to a mean, right? His left on base percentage is less than 60%, one of the best in baseball. And his career number in that regard is like 74, 75%. So there's just a lot of things that have just been weird. His batting average on balls in play is ridiculously high. And despite that, he's not giving up a whole lot of runs. And yeah, sure. So you could argue that he's wiggling himself out of jams. He's getting in trouble and then getting himself out of trouble. Great. But that stuff comes to an end at some point. So yeah, I do like the Yankees to grab some runs here. And as for the Rangers bullpen, I'm not in love with their pen by any means. Yankees obviously have a decent pen, but I'm not in love with it. I do know Eovaldi back-to-back starts has been struggling. He does finally come back home though, but the last time he was home was against Kansas City where he got rocked. So yes, overall, I do think the Yankees tag him for a few, and Johnny Brito has just been so bad, so bad. So I do think this Texas lineup, and at least we have the Texas lineup. The lineup looks as good as it really can get for them. So they mix things up with righties and lefties, and should put a lot of pressure on Brito today. So yeah, I like this number here. And as I look at the weather for this game, not that it matters because I think they can close things. But 70 degrees, you got wind blowing right to left or kind of out to right field as well. 70 degrees, I would consider this over type weather. I wouldn't this isn't like crazy over type weather, but nice weather, a little wind in our favor as well. So it could help with these home run balls I was discussing. So I really do like this spot. Rangers, Yanks, over 8.5. That was minus 108 FanDuel. The geek called up today was perfect time to move on from Flexen. Perfect. Love it. And Flexen's, yeah, he's been so blah. Rob Greer, Cash the Jolly Roger. What's up, Mike? What's up, Rob? All right, so yeah, that was one of the bets I fired on. We will move on to the next game. Brewers, Angels, Corbin Burns, Reed Detmers. I don't know. It feels like I get Corbin Burns wrong all the time, and he's just like becoming that guy that like consistently his advanced numbers have him in the threes, but he consistently seems to give up runs. Like I don't know. I guess this would be a start where he just probably magically finds himself. Brewers have been great. Angels have been above average, but if you look at the Angels team, like it's like how does this team not win games every year? Like every year, it's like they have their own struggles. Trout gets hurt at some point. And their pitching is always so blah. But yes, this spot, actually, to me, I have this line very fair. Milwaukee should be about minus 135, minus 140. Total 8.5 feels a little high, but Reed Detmer certainly can get lit up. And Burns has just randomly been giving up runs. It's just been weird. So, yeah, in that respect, I wanted to back Corbin Burns here at this price. I always get him wrong. So I'm taking a little break from Corbin Burns. But yes, Detmers has been good. Problem with Detmers is he is a left-hander, and the Brewers have plenty of girth from the right side of the plate. Their lineup's not out yet, but as you look at the Angels lineup, that's a pretty real lineup. Let me tell you, and I know Corbin Burns is pretty lethal against righties, but man, this team, like when the Angels face left-handed pitching and they're not facing it today, but wow, is that a murderer's row of right-handed bats. I mean, remember how much steam Brandon Drury was getting last year? He just mashes lefties. Renfroe mashes lefties. Rendon's always mashed lefties. Obviously, Trout's probably one of the best in the game against lefties. Gio Urshel at the bottom line, Taylor Ward. Like, son of potent. It's just crazy if this team can't consistently put things all together and actually win games and make the playoffs. But we don't have the Milwaukee lineup yet, so I can't really speak on it. But I would expect it to be, we do have it. Righty heavy. I mean, you got Voit, Brian Anderson, Contreras, Adames, again, murderer's row. So call it a slight lean at that over number at 8.5, but it would not surprise me in the least if Burns threw really well today and Detmers threw really well. But yeah, you just got a perfect storm of big bats against guys that have been notorious for giving up the long ball. So yeah, stay away from me. Call it a slight lean Corbin Burns, but I am taking a break. I gave up Corbin Burns for Lent this year, so we're not going to Corbin Burns for some time. Rockies, Diamondbacks, Noah Davis on the hill for the Rocks, Tommy Henry for the D-backs. Now, first of all, I know Davis has been, I guess, good, but I don't know. I don't believe any of it at all. Rockies are coming off a bad loss, 9-1 last game. Here's what I know about the Rockies. The Rockies just rarely, I can't say rarely, the Rockies don't often go up against two mid pitchers back-to-back games and get shut out. I really like the Rockies over their team totals today. And I say team totals because I split this bet. I went over 5.5 on DK. I went over 5.5 on DK at minus 130. And I also went Rockies over 6 on FanDuel at plus 100. So I split the bet, which saved me some vig. Plus Rockies over 6 plus 100 FanDuel. So this minus 130 DK. So I did these a half unit each, and it's for a few different reasons. I already mentioned the fact that it's just not common that for the Rockies to get blown up to get shut out. I mean, they didn't really get. I mean, they scored a run yesterday, but to keep the board really light when they're facing two pitchers. Now, Merrill Kelly, I do have respect for, but I don't have respect for Merrill Kelly when he pitches away from Arizona, and he threw really well yesterday, and then the pen kind of cleaned it up after. Diamondbacks pen hasn't been good either. I think they're like 8th or 9th worst in MLB, which doesn't surprise, right? But the Diamondbacks have been a pleasant surprise in the fact that they've been winning games. This spot, though, I get it. Like I said, Davis has been good. The advanced stuff doesn't look good at all. So he's likely going to give up some runs. But I only wanted to target the Rockies bats here and specifically against Tommy Henry. I think so. A left-hander at the Rockies in this park is typically just no good. I talked on Brito how his whip is pretty high. I mean, Tommy Henry's whip's almost 2. And did we get a Rockies lineup? I know we have the D-backs lineup, but did we get a Rockies lineup? Still no Rockies lineup. I don't really care, though, because I feel pretty confident we're going to get basically an opening day lineup from this group with a bunch of righties that can attack this guy. And here's the thing, like, Tommy Henry's not really doing anything well. I know the sample size is still small for him, and probably people expect him to kind of bounce back. I wonder, just trying to see how much work he actually got last year. Hold on one second. I know he was in for quite a bit. He didn't get a whole lot of work, but he just wasn't like another situation where a lot of walks, like almost walking a guy every other inning. And just a lot of hard contact. And again, none of that should change. None of that should change in relation to this spot. The only issue with this would be weather, right? Because this is not your typical super warm game in Colorado. It's 70 degrees, which is fine, but it's not super warm yet in Colorado. But when you see them hanging 12.5 at this park this earlier in the year, I'll tell you what, that's saying something for sure. But Noah Davis should not have a good start today. But I expect the Rockies to hit really well. I just didn't want to cap the Noah Davis. And I know this guy's been waking up with birch on his windshield, and I'm not looking to predict that him getting rocked today in a slugfest game where the Rockies lose, 10-7 or something like that. So I just want the Rockies in. I feel more confident in their bats today against Henry. So that's what I bet. I bet them over him. And then Henry doesn't really eat innings anyway. Even last year, when he threw well, he didn't eat innings. So I expect them to kick it to the D-backs bullpen, which, again, has not been great at all this year. So really, really like the spot. Really like the spot here with the Rocks to get runs, especially off of a bad start yesterday. So I know people, as it relates to cores, maybe people will play more the cheaper Arizona bats. I don't have the pricing in front of me. for DK, but I'd assume the Arizona bats are probably a little cheaper than the Rockies bats. I would definitely be heavier on the Rockies bats myself, especially the big righties, because it makes a lot of sense for them to really have some good showing today with the stick. So that was where I fired. May the odds be ever in our favor. Last but not least, Clayton Kershaw, Jordan Montgomery. Dodgers, again, our team just not getting a whole lot of market respect. And part of that is because they're what? They're like 14, 12, 14 and 13, something like that. Um, but Jordan Montgomery, and here's the thing, like you'll never hear me talk on guys that I do really well with because I just don't talk like that. But you will consistently hear guys I don't do well with. Jordan Montgomery is a guy I just never get right. Like when spots make a lot of sense for him to throw well, he doesn't. When he goes up against a team like this in the Dodgers, he tends to throw like 7 shutout innings out of nowhere. So I don't know. I don't. It feels like a cheap price once again in the Dodgers, but the Dodgers aren't playing that well. Like they're just not. So with a team like that, with a struggling, I'll say struggling team, a team playing below par, what do you do? And as for the Cardinals to start the year, at least as of a week ago, were by far the worst with runners in scoring position in baseball. Considering they're 10 and 17, I can't imagine that corrected itself yet. But I will say price feels cheap. Jordan Montgomery, of course, his ERA's back to 3.81. I think I played him the one start that he absolutely got rocked against, where he gave up like 7 earned. But here, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Again, these are some. I mean, based on the way I bet him, these are the spot starts where Montgomery will throw really well when he's not supposed to. Total 8.5. Well, it was 8.5 down to 8. Makes sense, right? You got 2 decent arms or 2 good arms. I would say probably definitely above average combined. Because I'm just not a Montgomery guy. Kershaw's great, but I'm not a Montgomery guy. But I would above average total. Line feels pretty sharp to me. Again, maybe some value on the Dodgers at a cheaper tag, but I don't love the spot at all. And again, if you want to go under my premises on how I used to bet Montgomery, this is a spot where Montgomery would always pitch well. Spot makes sense to fade him. It's a cheap tag in the Dodgers. You get Kershaw, but again, the Cardinals do have a ton of big right-handed sticks, and as Kershaw's career has moved older and older, he has been struggling a little bit more with the right-handed bats. And we know the Cards bring a strong group of right-handed bats to the table. And if you look here, I mean they got everybody in there right now. Tommy Edmonds back to leading off. Paul DeJong's hitting 7, Tyler O'Neill 6. I mean, this is a scary lineup versus left-handed pitching. But the Dodgers are going to be scary as well. So, yeah, ultimately, stay away spot for me. 8 makes sense. If it dipped to 7.5, I would definitely bet this over. It won't. But yes, overall, kind of another game where I have arrows going different directions. But I did fire on those 2 games that I talked on, and I do like those the most today. So with all that said, I hope you found this video informative in your own way, whether you're using it to leverage maybe some DFS builds, as I'm kind of talking through these games in these spots, or whether you're looking for betting or maybe looking for some affirmation on your own bets. However, I hope you found this content helpful in its own way. Tomorrow, I will be back with Joseph Work, Holden Kushner, aka Seth, and Gary talking MLB with DFS. That show will definitely have more DFS content than this did, 100%. And then we have the NASCAR show afterwards. So look, with all that said, folks, I hope you all enjoy your Saturday evenings. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you found this video informative. But with all that said, stay safe, gamble responsibly, and as always, run pure. See you guys tomorrow.